And I can record this. Hey, Jane, nice to see you.
Hiya, still croaking.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Jane, nice to see you. If you don't mind.
Hiya, still croaking.
Okay, beautiful. Well, I know that other people are coming. Maybe we should wait just a moment. Maybe we could share. Jamie, you were here last time.
Yeah.
Um, did you notice anything during your week that you found kind of dipped into that chapter? Anything that happened that kind of, is there any shifts or anything like that you felt?
I feel unprepared because I should have written something down. There were moments, but I didn't note them. I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's a little bit just a different awareness, right? These meetings where you talk to people who have a different way of viewing life and are reaching for more awareness. It gets me excited. And then for the rest of the week, I'm not super aware of what's going on, but I'm in a different state. When I'm looking at things, it's kind of like, oh, what am I learning from this? How can I pull this apart and apply it to what I've been learning and what's focused in my life right now? And these meetings are a point of focus. So nothing concrete, just a different way of looking at things.
That though is like, yeah, I hear when you say that that's not necessarily concrete. Though it's almost like a metaphysical concrete.
Yeah.
No? Like you might suddenly find yourself thinking a way you went normally, or just seeing something might not notice normally without that kind of frame of thought.
Well, you know what? I did think of one thing.
Yeah.
So, and it was actually something that I brought up, but it's a common theme, and it's that we are all going through as humans a lot of the same stuff. So for me to have empathy for people that I come across, because I realize that we're all going through some of these same problems, is important for me lately, because I feel bad about myself, because I'm like, I'm just going through it all, we're all going through the same thing. So this isn't just me being weird over in a corner here or having these thoughts. There's a world full of people, and a good portion of them, and comedians do this perfectly. They can say something and the whole room feels it. They know, because that's a shared human experience. So that's been a big thing, and that we talked about that last week.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, Jamie, and I'm happy that you brought that up, because that's something I've been really noticing too, and it's one of the reasons why I thought the Prosperous Coach was such a great book to do, because when we were doing hey, Philip.
Hello.
Hey, we're kind of talking about Layla's coming in here too, just to bring you guys up to speed. We're kind of talking about, Jamie was just mentioning how this group, and just having people in it who are keen to dive into some of the concepts in the Prosperous Coach, and also just to relate to each other with these different struggles or perceptions that we have, kind of starts pointing at the fact that we all in different ways share the same kind of core struggles. Like you could kind of call them the human struggles. And that's kind of empowering, because then you can start to like grasp that there's maybe a set of pillars or a set of principles or kind of sets of behaviors or profiles that we all share, and then we can start to mobilize them in positive directions. So I really like that whole kind of concept. I really noticed Jimmy, we did this. There's a few people in here: Kate, Philip, Jane, actually, Michaela too. Am I saying it right this time?
Michele.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Um,
Sorry, I'm late, guys. Sorry.
that's okay. So yeah, maybe let's kind of dive into this a bit. So since we're getting more people here, I feel like if more people come, they'll just kind of join in as we go. So one of the first things I wanted to talk about, which I feel might kind of easily be overlooked, and I feel it connects to another book that would maybe be difficult to do a book club about, but I think it's relevant in terms of this chapter. So I'm just going to share my screen here with you guys. Okay, so one of the first things that we see in the book is this: "To hell with circumstances, I create opportunities" by Bruce Lee. And I think that quote goes really deep if you look into Bruce Lee's life, especially. But what I wanted to kind of show you guys is that there's another book I really like called Think and Grow Rich. And one of the reasons why I like the book so much, and Layla knows this, is because I spent a little bit of time, and I've talked about this a little bit already in the Prosperous Coach. I spent some time studying millionaires and billionaires, and the reason why I studied them is because this one quote that I heard that was that the 1% thinks in the opposite way that the 99% thinks. And I found that to be just a really curious quote. So I was like, well, what do they think about? Because I'm not rich. So what are some of the differences? So I started looking into book lists that very wealthy people kind of put out onto the internet and said these were some books they read. And one of the main books that was on every single millionaire's book list was Think and Grow Rich. And there's something in there called the definite chief aim, which you learn about, which basically is with faith in your definite chief aim, you can kind of do anything. So this is Bruce Lee's definite chief aim. And this is what he says. I, Bruce Lee, will be the first highest paid Oriental superstar in the United States. In return, I will give the most exciting performances and render the best quality in the capacity of an actor. Starting 1970, I will achieve world fame, and from then onward till the end of 1980, I will have in my possession $10 million. I will live the way I please and achieve inner harmony and happiness. So this is kind of this was his actual formula for where this quote comes from. To hell with circumstances, I create opportunities. He very much believed and had the faith that he could do it, but it wasn't like some kind of abstract idea. He very much rendered this into this quote. So I think that that's important because in this chapter, you might just read this and say, well, that's really nice, right on, Bruce Lee. But really, he actually had a formula, and you can read about that formula in Think and Grow Rich. So if you ever are interested in just where the power of this quote comes from, that's one of the places that it comes from. That's that cool? Anybody have any questions about Think and Grow Rich or that kind of that process or anything?
Yeah, could I get a link to that article? Is that okay?
Yeah, totally. I will put it in the chat here.
Thank you.
Let me see if I can figure out how to stop sharing my screen. Oh, it's up here. I'm just gonna throw this in the chat and then yeah, besides Think and Grow Rich, I found besides the Prosperous Coach, Think and Grow Rich was a huge book for me. Layla, what do you like? Layla is actually a professional Think and Grow Rich reader. Like she has read, like I read the book and I feel like I was pretty good with the book. Layla tore the book to pieces. Like I've never met someone who read a book like that. I gotta think of myself as like I'm a pretty good reader, but she tore that book to pieces. What do you have anything quick you would say about the definite chief aim or how it's impacted you, or how you could see that's connected to this quote?
Hi. Um,
For anyone who doesn't know Layla, she is a virtuosic musician and she does birth coaching as well on the side. But primarily she is a composer, arranger, and vocalist. Amazing, by the way.
Thanks, Neil.
Uh,
Good morning. Um, Think and Grow Rich. Can you put that quote? Which quote are you talking about? The one that the Bruce Lee?
yeah, so here, I'll share the screen again. See if I can do that. Share. Oh, it ran away on me. To hell with circumstances. So there's that, but then there's his definite chief aim.
Yeah, well, first of all, amazing that you found Bruce Lee's definite chief aim. P.S. Neil, I kind of am now curious as to how many other incredibly successful and forward-moving people's definite chief aims are on Google. Like I might go on a little hunt because that's super cool. And I guess Think and Grow Rich, if y'all haven't, have you guys read it? Has anybody else read it? Oh yeah.
Parts of it.
Um, Think and Grow Rich has been one of the most powerful catalysts of understanding in my personal life. And I love how that other one, Neil, create, what does it say? Like create opportunity.
To hell with circumstances.
Like the the biggest takeaway or the biggest, I guess you could say, like, and with some of my voice students and some of my birth clients, one of the things that I sort of grab from that book and offer them is to look at your day and observe, witness how many times in a day are you blocking a choice or a decision, whether it's for or against. So not necessarily judging like what you're deciding for or against or how you're choosing, but just noticing that there could be this inner subconscious voice that is guiding you toward that part, creating opportunity, but that given a particular circumstance, whether that's an outer circumstance or whether that's one that we're creating on the inside, will be thwarted. Like that moment is thwarted. So like for instance, something as simple as like, I want to make myself an iced coffee, you know, and then you think, I want to make myself an iced coffee. And all of a sudden, the circumstance of your moment, oh, I have to do this, I shouldn't have caffeine, or the circumstance inside, like, oh, I feel guilty, I've already had 5, um, comes into your mind and stops that choice. Granted, when we use coffee, like there's things obviously that we, you know, we don't necessarily want to do that all the time, but it's a beautiful book, and it's a beautiful, that little thing to go through your day and take off, really listen to the inner workings of your subconscious mind, and really being able to use that book to help you find your subconscious mind and actually be able to, in a way, step in front of it. You know what I mean? Like step in front of it so that it's no longer about circumstance. It's actually about your own will to create that opportunity or create that ideal life, or even as small as choosing a cup of coffee. So very, very cool to find that, Neil, as a relating into that one quote. It's a very neat exercise. I will quickly also share that I did when I first came, because that's not something that's in Think and Grow Rich. That's like something I decided to do from what I was reading. I was like, wow, I really need to get a hold of my subconscious little brain here. And when I did it, I put a piece of paper on my wall, and I ticked off in the day every time something thwarted me. And at the end of the day, I was like, holy shit, that's a lot of things. And then I calculated, I was like, maybe each time I sat there thinking and pondering and thwarting was like 30 seconds to a minute. I don't know. I did a rough estimate of time that I was using in my day thinking about circumstance, instead of actively creating those opportunities. And did a math problem. I did, okay, well, if that's how much in a day, how much in a week? Okay, if that's how much in a week, how much in a month? How much in a year? Do you guys want to guess how much it was in a year?
I think you
What do
said,
you just want to throw out?
yeah, tell us. Throw it out there, Layla.
But I want to know if anybody wants to guess
You spend a month of the year thwarting yourself.
more. Keep going.
3 months.
Yeah, baby. 3 months out of a year. And then I'm like almost 40. And I was like, wait a second, how much of my life? Anyways, long story short, it's a very fabulous quote. It's an incredible book. And you are more than welcome to take that little exercise and apply it in a day. And I would personally be interested to see how much time you spend thwarting yourself.
Jamie, you have something to say about that too? You
A little bit with some of the parts, because the idea of those everyday circumstances when you're making a decision, and you can either thwart yourself or you can move yourself in a proper direction. Sometimes it's so intimidating that you can overwhelm yourself with it. And so I think humans, we like the idea of luck or fate or all of those things to take away the weight of all of those decisions. And so I heard a quote, and it's been banging around the internet, and it says, I think it was maybe Naval or something like that. It says, in life, the best way to improve is to increase your luck surface area. So the idea behind it, I don't know if anybody's heard it, but the idea is that luck is there, if you want to believe in it that way. But the things that you do yourself in order to make you available for luck, right? You increase the amount of opportunity you have for luck by opening doors, by doing things, by not limiting yourself. And it gives you a place to put that weight. It's like, okay, well, I could do a little bit by myself, increase the area of where I might get lucky, and that might help too, because I can't do it all myself. And so it gives you a space somewhere in the middle of, doing everything, or the luck of the lottery, if you will. Does that tie in?
Yeah, massively so. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not even going to weigh in. I'm just going to keep it rolling. So, Michaela, tell me what you got over there too.
What's up?
Oh,
Hello, dude. We're never gonna touch the third chapter of the book today because you opened this Pandora's box here. I just wanted to say, so the way I understood it, because I read Bruce Lee's biography twice, and there was the one made not by his family, so that's the whole truth, really. And I love Bruce Lee. Like when I was 18, I started martial arts, and then I got into Bruce Lee. Then through him, I got into Jiddu Krishnamurti, which introduced me basically to the start of self-development. So there was a whole journey. And now that I know the whole story, and I wanted to mention it a couple of times in Domino, because it's like the things the guy did to get where he got, like it's unbelievable. Like for 15 years he never stopped, and he did it all. Like he opened a martial arts school, he tried to be an actor, a stuntman, then it wasn't working TV, then it wasn't working, he went to Hollywood, it wasn't working, he went back to Hong Kong, and dude, 15 years like that, and he had a ton of help also from his wife and other people. Like even like 7 years before he was famous, he was trying to get in, being like the trainer of Steve McQueen and other famous actors, and he couldn't get in at all. So that's interesting. If anyone, like even musicians, that there are a few here, right? Because you think, many people think of him as an actor, period. Many people as an Asian or upper icon. Many people as a martial artist. But at the end of the day, he did a million things to actually make it. I mean, it wasn't really a ton of stuff that he did. So that's really interesting. But I think you made the connection here with what because he also wrote a ton, because he was a writer and a philosopher and educator, amongst many things. But you're referring to the definite chief aim, which he wrote and is widely shared, because also now the daughter made a foundation, and there's a podcast which I listened for years and then they stopped it. But I guess what happened is the book from the guys from Landmark, right? So the coaching school, which are the guys that wrote Think and Grow Rich, took the idea of the definite chief aim from him, and the way they understand it, tell me if it's correct, and maybe this could be the connection with the chapter, is like kind of a vision, but very practical, very definite, like what he wrote. I think it was, I don't even read it, but I remember it. Like, I think it was by age 30 or something, I'm gonna make 1 million a year and be the best paid Asian actor in Hollywood or in the world. So it's very definite, like numbers and practical things that need to happen. And also with maybe a time constraint like age or money, stuff like, so it's like a micro vision, very specific with numbers. Is it something like that?
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to really dive into this part of the chapter, because I felt that, you know, you would read this and see it as an inspiring quote, and then someone who read this book would just, or this chapter would just move on to the next part of the chapter, the next paragraph or whatever. But I find it, like I said about this book so many times, just this quantum layering in this book. Like, he puts it there, and then if you actually look into Bruce Lee and what he did, like you're saying, all these different things he did, and then how he used Think and Grow Rich and this definite chief aim. And if you read Think and Grow Rich, like Layla was saying, it's so much about unblocking the subconscious, removing limitations, and then having a concrete pathway that you build yourself step by step to get kind of to your dream. So, but the most important thing in Think and Grow Rich, and one of the very first chapters, is this chapter on faith and the power of faith. So there's a lot going on. It goes really deep, this quote, and then how he was able to kind of encapsulate it in the definite chief aim, and then to really kind of distill it, I would say, like really make it very potent in this one quote: to hell with circumstances, I create opportunity, which is what Think and Grow Rich is all about, and to a degree what the Prosperous Coach is all about, especially when it comes to faith and unblocking kind of the unconscious world, I guess you'd say. Does that connect? But does that make sense? Let's keep going, because we still have a couple. Let's hear what Philip has to say, and then Kate, and then I'm going to try and start the chapter.
Okay. Thank you. First, just so I'm kind of getting this right, it's like the point of unblocking yourself is that if you don't roll the dice, you'll never know what the outcome is. It's funny because I'm staying with my mum right now, hence the different scenery. And something I noticed is that she's really got this, like she just blocks herself. Like I'm like, oh, I'm doing this thing. Like for example, I'm doing a piano concert in 2 weeks. I've put this together that I'm going to do like an hour of music in a venue in London. Uh, and like whenever I kind of broach the subject with her, she's always like, oh, but it could go wrong, or who's going to come, or what about if no, if you won't make any tickets, or you're going to make a mistake, or you're going to embarrass yourself or something. And I'm like, I mean, I don't care. Like I'm already past all those blockages, but it's just really interesting because I'm being around your parents kind of sometimes reminds you of those little blockages that you have in yourself. So I guess my point was to kind of just make sure that I'm getting that right. It's like if you don't roll the dice, you'll never know if you can win. Is that kind of what Layla's talking about with unblocking yourself? 'Cause yeah, I think that's about it, right? It's about if you don't roll the dice, you don't know what's going to happen. So you just try lots of things, and something's going to work eventually, right?
It's you have it, and it's like one step deeper. Is it sometimes what I was trying to say about not judging? Is it sometimes it's like about not rolling the dice? Like it's really not about, it's about just what is that first thought? What is that first initiative? What's that first idea? That first, you want to do a piano concert. I'm going to do a piano concert. Okay, then do it. Or you don't want to call this person because that makes you feel you're not really interested. Well then don't. It's like it's instead of what we say quickly in our minds, what we try to then push around, like we're gonna, whether it's one way or the other, we're deciding to roll the dice or not roll the dice. It's that we've had that thought, I'm going to do this, I'm going to roll the dice or I'm not going to roll the dice. We have that, but then in a flat, we're talking like milliseconds when we're not in that power, milliseconds of time go by and we'll layer 1,000 things on top. And all of a sudden we're like on a completely different freaking path or journey. God knows where we're going. That's what so it's not necessarily about always rolling the dice, like as always do. It's like always step in front of every freaking other thing that comes at you as you have those you could those divine those moments of like clarity where you're like, this is what I need to do or not need to do. Does that? Yeah.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
want, I want to flesh that out a little bit too, because Layla's speaking from, in my opinion, having read the book and watched her read the book, there's a part in what she's saying that's in what she's saying, in my opinion, is informed by an element of the book which says that these ideas will come from infinite intelligence and they'll kind of come through you. And it's like this intuitive whisper. And it can be a very faint whisper. And it can be a whisper that says, don't do that or do this. And sometimes we don't key into that because of what we layer on top of it, what we feel compelled to do. So you might feel compelled by the outside world to get a certain job or to do a certain thing, but the little intuitive voice in your mind says, no, don't do that. Like, and maybe the intuitive part of your brain only says, just wait, or, relax, or don't think about that. And we say, well, when we use our rational mind, our more limited mind, to say, oh, but I have to do that. Such and such person told me to do that, or my degree tells me to do that, or society tells me to do that. So we can sometimes miss that tiny little intuitive voice that's really powerful when we listen to it. Does that kind of key into what you're saying, Layla?
Yeah, like like sometimes it's about what we hear, the noise, versus what we're actually choosing to listen to, and it's the choice part. It's like the action part. It's like, okay, I wanted to do this thing, and then all the noise, and all of a sudden we've got 1,000 things rolling around in our head. Can we actually, well, and the answer in my world is yes, we can actually step in front of all of the noise and come right down to that first initial little like, this is what I should do, or this is what I shouldn't do. you know, like I met an artist who invited me to go to New Orleans to come and sing jazz. And in my head, and I'm still practicing, I will admit, right? Like life is a world of growth. And I heard myself go, yeah, fuck yeah, I want to go to New Orleans and sing. And then so fast. And in that moment of me, cha-cha-cha-cha-cha, these are all the reasons why I have 2 kids. Oh my God, I booked a show, blah, blah, blah. What do I do? Money, 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 you know, all the things that could come in. I looked at her and I was like, I don't know if I can make that work, but you know, what? You know, and then 2 days later I texted her and I was like, I don't know what the hell I was doing there, but I'm so in. Like I will move my life around to make this happen because that's what I wanted to do. So yeah, I guess just the act of like making that synapses shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter until it's just the action is the first one.
Yeah, that's also what Steve Hardison talks about that too. He says that. Absolutely. Kate.
Mm.
Hi. To go back to that about trusting that our instinct is right. Just to acknowledge that. The thing that I was going to just share was something that I read this morning, and it's about creating this circumstance. And my task for after this evening is to think about the many things that I've been doing that I need to stop, and some of the things that I haven't been doing that I need to start. And I feel that weaves into creating the circumstance. And then to think behind that, what am I doing that I need to stop? Procrastinating is one of those things. Taking some actions that perhaps I'm a bit nervous about. They are the very things I need to start doing to create the circumstance. So this is perfect timing that this chapter's, because I didn't know that I was going to be doing this call tonight. So this chapter has woven in nicely to my day so far, my thinking.
Beautiful. That's what I love. I love to hear that. I'm so happy that we're co-creating this and it's shifting things around, and everyone can share and draw from each other. Jane.
I just picked up the book Clarity this morning and I was reading that, and I think it's the beginning of the first chapter. It talks about the fact that a muddy pond, you can't make a muddy pond clear. But when you let the pond settle, it becomes, you know, your clarity gets there. And that's the same for the brain. Let the noise settle and the clarity is there. And I just think that fits what we've been talking about.
Absolutely. And that book, if the people on the call or people who will watch this later don't know about Jamie Smart's book Clarity, to me it's a fundamental book to read. It's absolutely, it is a fierce, I would say, and courageous departure from modern psychiatry and therapy, and opens up a new or different, you might say, you could even say ancient, like revitalizes an ancient way of thinking about the mind, and that's science based. So there's a bunch of, so the book is great for the intellectual, rational person, as well as kind of the emotional, intuitive person, because there's convincing arguments backed up by science, as well as just pure honest to God wisdom. It's amazing. It's really worth reading that book.
I'm loving it so far, and the interactive bits that you can get as well, because there are the QR codes that you can go and get interactive videos and stuff. It's brilliant. Love it.
Yeah, I agree. The book is so expansive. You know, one chapter you read it, and then all of a sudden 2 or 3, like you could go for 2 or 3 hours on one if you wanted to go through all the science, and that's crazy. It's amazing. Check it out. I would 100%. Okay, so let's see if we can read a little bit of this book. So we're probably only going to get so far, but I have a career that doesn't even make sense. The only way I can describe it is to say this: I am in the miracle business. People spend time with me, we talk, and miracles occur. One of my clients, I want to talk about this, but I'm going to go a little bit further first. One of my clients is a mother of 3. When I first met her, she was feeling completely stuck because she had this crazy dream of a certain famous billionaire entrepreneur writing the foreword to her book and becoming president of her charitable organization. But she didn't know him, and she knew he would have no reason to meet with a stranger, let alone agree to her requests. She kept saying to herself, am I just dreaming too big? Am I pushing too far beyond what is possible? She sat down with me and began to share her dreams, and we began to meet week after week. She immersed herself in our coaching. Some days she would show up disappointed and low in energy as these dreams seemed so far out of reach. And some days she would show up full of a sense of possibility as she took steps further and further outside of her comfort zone. So this is like, there's a bunch of things I want to unpack in here, but I think one of the main things to unpack is that the first thing he says, it's the only way I can describe it, is that I am in the miracle business. People spend time with me, we talk, and miracles occur. So I find this to be an interesting way to start the chapter, because I would say that all of us, no matter what industry you're in, are in the miracle business. Like, miracles are cross-disciplinary. They're cross cultural, they're cross personal. And the reason why I think that is basically for the reason why what he says here. He says, people spend time with me, we talk, and miracles occur. I would say that happens in every industry. People talk, they spend time with each other, and miracles occur. It just depends on what you think a miracle is. If you're a CEO in a boardroom and you talk about a plan, and then you build a new product, and you make a lot of money, I would say that that's a miracle. You thought about something, an image happened, an idea occurred, you spoke about it and applied that idea, and something happened. That to me is a miracle. And I would say that happens in every situation where we spend time speaking with each other in an intentional way. And I would personally say that's what separates good business and good relationships from relationships that need, and businesses that need some work. Would you guys agree with that? Or is there any counter arguments to that? No? Cool. Okay, so I'm going to keep going, because I feel like that's a fundamental thing that's kind of skipped over. People are like, oh, that's a coaching thing, just talking with each other. So within a few months, she had a meeting on her calendar between herself and the billionaire. She showed up to the meeting alert and focused. Oh wait, I'm going to actually point out one other thing too. She says here, this is a crazy block to me that's written right into it. It says, but she didn't know him, and she knew he would have no reason to meet with a stranger. So, like, as myself as a coach, and just as a person that likes to get things done, when someone tells me that they know something, that's one of the first things that I kind of question. I'm going to be like, you know for sure that this isn't going to work out? So I would say that would be the first thing that probably unlocked for this person in terms of meeting this billionaire. She has a charitable organization. Billionaires love charities for multiple reasons, some of them good, some of them nefarious. So why would this billionaire not want to meet her? Who knows if the charity connects with him as a person? She feels like he would connect to the charity, so why wouldn't he feel like he connected to the charity? So the first block isn't that she doesn't know something or thinks that she knows something. It's that she does think that she knows something. But what she knows is actually limiting her from getting what she wants, which is so. Sometimes in coaching, we talk about subtractive coaching, where you actually remove something in order to get past a limit of limitation. Like we don't add more knowledge or more research. We talk out some of the things we think we already know, some of our inherent beliefs, and those make room for beliefs that move in the direction that we're really looking to go. So yeah, she showed up to the meeting alert and focused, her whole body trembling with energy, but she stayed connected with her bigger purpose. This is another thing I think is really cool. It ties back to that definite chief aim. And by the end of their meeting, he had agreed to both of her requests. And soon after, he flew her out to California to meet Oprah. Oprah also seems to be like a big deal. She shows up in a lot of people's kind of major life-shifting experiences. This is another really good paragraph, I find, story. An Olympic athlete I coached was struggling with her blocks around money. The voice in her head would say, "You're supposed to be a world-class athlete, so why can't you raise any funds? You're a loser." Okay, so now I really need to point at what Layla was saying. She's got this noise in her head, and she believes that it's true. She was so hard on herself because she lived with the daily frustration of selling calendars in a seemingly hopeless attempt to fund her Olympic bid. She was a beautiful woman, and the calendars had stunning photos of her, but at $17 a piece, she was going to need to sell a whole lot of them to get to the Olympics. This is, again, another situation where I think this is a person negotiating with her limitations. She's having trouble seeing beyond her limitations since she's just negotiating within her limitations. And then this is really cool. When we met, I dived deep into what she was doing all this for. After a few minutes, she began to cry. With tears rolling down her cheeks, she admitted that this was for something so much bigger than her. She had a dream of creating a foundation that would teach children that everyone was capable of Olympic-sized feats. As she finished speaking, she looked up into my eyes, and her own eyes were sparkling. So I just want to unpack that for a second. But before I kind of unpack it, does that spark anything for you guys? Like, does that move anything in you? Hey.
Thanks, Neil.
Yeah.
I'm just going back to the top of that page. So I've gone back to the first person, and there's that acknowledgement there that so some days she would show up disappointed, low in energy, as these dreams seem so far out of reach, and some days she would show up full of a sense of a possibility as she took steps further and further outside of her comfort zone. I feel like both of those things, those limiting beliefs, the comfort zones, where we think we can get to rather than over the edge, plays such a part in this, because there aren't miracles in comfort zones. That's what we already know. So therefore, it wouldn't be a miracle. So yeah, just stepping back a bit and just noticing that. And the comfort zones, if I could share a personal thing, I no longer have them. I consciously let go of all comfort zones 14 months ago at Lamron with Sashin, and life without them is amazing. So that's why that resonates with me in particular, because yeah, I'm a lot more daring into everything now than I ever was, hence me speaking out loud.
Wow, that's fantastic. So even say this kind of situation would be a shift outside of your comfort zone, or it was a shift outside of your comfort zone?
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. 15 months ago, there's no way I would have joined. I wouldn't have put my hand out, wouldn't have spoken. I was mute, was my limiting belief. And I had that belief for maybe 50 years. So then, and that kept me safe. So, well, I'm mute, so therefore I don't need to talk. But I suppose it kept me safe. But now that I've, you know, they have just evaporated now. So that means that I have to think about it so much. It's not, am I brave enough? I went on a televised podcast thing yesterday. I got an invite and like, yeah. Well, absolutely. That wouldn't have been a thing 6 months ago. And so it brings up all the opportunities and, and she says there, on those days, showing up full of possibility and to not have any restrictions. So there are no comfort zones. And then there's only momentum and miracles.
That's so powerful, Kate, especially coming from you because you have such an amazing energy and you have such amazing things to say. So the fact that you kind of like got out of your way in that sense is just serving the world in such a huge way. Like thank goodness that you did that. Like, oh, it makes me a little emotional. Just to imagine that you wouldn't have done that. Like, oh, geez, there's so many situations that I've seen you communicate from, which have been so powerful. And to think that you broke through your comfort zone to do that, like, that's amazing. So I'm so what a reward for the people that you're around. That's just so fantastic.
And then
Yeah,
the
geez.
more I do, the more I want to do. I did this podcast thing yesterday, like proper recording studio, and wow, now I want to do that again. As opposed to thinking, well, I won't dip my toe in because then I'll never know. But I'll be safe. I'll be safe in that place. So yeah, the momentum, and that was a miracle because 15 months ago, me absolutely wouldn't have done that. 15 months.
Oh,
Mhm.
that's wow. Well, so anyone listening to that, just think about how 15 months can change your life, not only for you, but for all the people who you then step out of your comfort zone for. That's amazing. And I'd also like to just point out or connect together the fact that that noise went out of your head or settled down, like as Jane had said, but and you followed that intuition or that voice, and you were able to do it without too much of that noise or that what did impede you and what kept you in your comfort zone then became this powerful tool that you're now following with even more ease. Like you just said, like then I went to do a podcast and I was like, yeah, I want to do that. And then you did it. Then you're like, hell yeah, I'd do that again. So it's no longer, it becomes a very powerful thought the more you work with that, the more powerful it gets as the noise kind of reside.
Yeah, and it is. I went to the beach this morning and it was like a ice rink. It was so flat. And 4 or 5 days ago at that same beach, the waves were beating against the houses and wrecking and doing so much damage. And there was so much noise from the sea. And now the sea was crystal clear this morning. And there was stillness there. And I likened that. I did a post about, actually after the storms, when it settles, like Jane talked about the river, when it settles, there's so much clarity. And I was the queen of head noise for a really long time. And all of the noise was reasons why I can't, reasons why I shouldn't, reasons to stay safe. Yeah, and the noise has subsided now. So I don't have to, I guess it's that moment. There are no dice to roll. It's a yes. So it happens. And I'm still kind of, mind blown by it, given where I was in the I'm mute stakes.
Wow, that's super powerful. Wow. I just acknowledge. I just have to like kind of inwardly acknowledge. I like that you
Like,
are
yeah,
so.
like
Sorry.
you guys really know me, if you like Project Domino. But my family are like, my kids are like, oh my God, what's happened to you? You're so different. And it's come from things like this and Project Domino and creating the circumstance. So I've created the circumstance. I've joined Project Domino. I'm doing this. And the reason I create that is to have an opportunity to be involved. And then by being involved, there's to be honest, even though there's no value for anyone else, there's value for me because I've said something out loud to people I don't really know.
Katie, I'm so happy. I'm overjoyed that you joined this Zoom session. You're just beaming gold into this session. Especially with being so open about some of the things that you faced and how you've just acknowledged it and owned it. So like saying that you're the queen of head noise and stuff, just really kind of empowering yourself to see the quote unquote negative things, whatever you want to call it, the way that you were, and really recognizing it and like establishing yourself in it and then showing how you shifted out of that is so potent, you know what I mean? Like you're acknowledging the power that it had and then the power you had to change it and then the power that that's had to affect so many people, myself included. It's just such a, you're, in my opinion, you're being an emissary of vulnerability and the power of that openness and transparency. Like, good for you. Like, holy smokes. So powerful. Wow. So I could sit in this feeling forever. Let's talk to Philip though. Here, let's see what Philip has to say. Wow.
Oh, I was going to put down my hand because I can't follow that. Wow, amazing, Kate. I was going to kind of add into that mix because I think that's kind of sort of what, because we as coaches, as people who have got our minds kind of opened and we're doing the work, we kind of sometimes take these things for granted, and actually just selling that transformation can work. I was reading the book Psycho-Cybernetics before I started the Prosperous Coach. Maybe you've heard of Psycho-Cybernetics, and it sort of they touch similar subjects. I'd say, overlaps with a lot of the things we were talking about today. It's kind of what's going on in your mind, and are you consciously blocking yourself, and then reprogramming that. I realized I think I've done a lot of work on that because that Psycho-Cybernetics book shifted a lot of things for me. I'm going to go back to my piano concert because I think it's a really good example of this. I put out the ad that I'd done the announcement that I'm going to be doing that on my social media. And then like I'm practicing and these thoughts go through my head like, why are you doing this? What happens if you mess up? What happens if you embarrass yourself? It's gonna be hundreds of people, well, not hundreds, but like dozens of people looking at you, and you're just playing your music. And then all of this mental chatter, and I was like, nah. Like, okay, you keep talking. I'm doing what I love. Like I feel it in my heart. Like I want to do this. And I guess maybe the cherry on the cake after this announcement thing was literally the next day. I was at a gig that my friend's organizing, and there's like a friend who's I've seen in passing, and he follows me on social media now. And he was like, "Oh, I saw you did this announcement for your gig." I was like, "Yeah. I'm really looking forward to it." And he's like, "I'm a festival organizer, and I'd like for you to play on my festival."
Nice.
I was like, "What?" So yeah, stepping out of your comfort zone, and the next amazing thing lines up. So I think this is just further ammunition for us to recognize the power of transformation and how it can lead one thing to another. So that was just what I wanted to add to the story.
I absolutely, I would weigh in, but I think that I'm gonna keep moving because I feel like other people are gonna weigh right in on that, Philip, because that's so fantastic. And I want to spread the energy around here and let other people weigh in on that as well. Because
I
that's
mean, it's like we're just sharing examples of our own wins and how actually this sort of kind of transformative coaching thing, all of us as coaches are already sort of applying it in our lives. So yeah.
yeah, and also to add to that, because I always want to make a real point of how these things shift across industry. Like, no matter what industry you're in, even if you're like, it doesn't even have to be industry, family, like Kate was saying, like how you show up for your children, how you show up for your friends, how you show up at a gig, how you show up for audiences. When there's less of that noise in your head, when you've chosen to let that mind clutter kind of settle, and those more powerful thoughts arise, it's so beneficial for everybody. You know, like if you're a musician, you're going to play a better performance. There's a better chance that you're going to, you know, when you speak with your children, it's gonna be a better chance that you're more attentive and more open and clear with them, you know. When you seal a contract with an entrepreneur, or sorry, with like a business or a client, you're gonna be more present and open to like the best possible options for them. There's just so many situations where if you're meeting a stranger, someone you don't know very well, and you have a bunch of noise about culture or race or whatever it is, like good or bad, you know, that stuff is gonna to subside, and you'll be able to see a more clear sense of the moment. So I think it's like one of those situations where, like you're saying, Philip, when you clear the noise out of the way and the heart speaks, which is not easy. I think that's
It's
a really,
powerful.
yeah, it's a powerful thing in our society. Like, yeah, Jane, what?
So I kind of wanted to share some things that are ringing true from everything. But first of all, I wanted to celebrate both Kate and Philip, because that's amazing in both cases. And Kate, yeah, I've seen it, and I know you said this used to be mute, but the things you say is powerful. And I love the fact that, Philip, you say step out of your comfort zone, and not only one thing happens, but there's a knock-on effect and new opportunities come. I think it's brilliant. But it's also it's quite pertinent, because I spent yesterday with a client, and actually today as well, trying to get rid of some of this noise in their head. They're trying to make a decision, and all they've got in their head is, well, if I do this, this person will think this, and if I do this, this person will think that. And so right before this call happened, the last thing I said to them was, let that settle. What do you want? And so that kind of really speaks to that. You know, it's, what do you want? What's your voice saying? Not what these other voices are saying, but what's your voice saying? But also that came from the fact that I've noticed in my own head that noise is clearing. Like Kate said, she was the queen of noise in the head. I have a lot of noise. The only time I don't have noise, or I found I used to not have noise, was when I'm swimming in cold water, particularly, or if I'm walking or you know, doing something, do some activity, then the noise comes. But I've been practicing and sitting with this idea of getting rid of the noise in a way, not in an active way, but just in a way that says, yeah, it's noise. And things are coming through. There are certain things that I want to let go of. Activities that I've sort of committed to doing that I've realized are creating noise for me. So I'm not going to do them. And so this conversation is really playing into the fact that yesterday I had this clarity. I'm not going to do that. But the other thing that has really hit me really clearly over the last couple of days is the thing I'm really passionate about is this idea of leadership with love. And I want to create a movement around this idea of leadership with love. And that is the way I've always led. And that is the way I am. And it's the first time I've ever really felt clear. I've had all of these feelings around the way people are leading. You know, there's all these hang-ups and things like that. That's not right. This, that, and the other. But until yesterday evening, this idea of leadership with love hadn't come in, because I'd been thinking, I'd been trying too hard. And this thought, as you know, was saying earlier, was there. I just didn't hear it. And then I heard it, and it's like, oh, I quite like that.
That is so beautiful, Jane. I think that is, you're really tapping on, I think, the crux of this whole conversation and this chapter. That kind of, that idea that when you let the noise go, you stop doing the activities that you don't want to do and that create all this noise for you, and you allow, you open up, and like we were saying earlier about the Think and Grow Rich, like you have faith, all of a sudden out of that shoots these ideas and these thoughts that are more in line with what you really want to be doing, and that you have the real gusto and desire to do them. I might already naturally be doing them, but you just haven't taken stock of them and been clear about it.
I think this thing around the thing that I've really felt, which is really incredible with this idea that just came into my head, was I know how to create this. I know how to connect to create this. I can do this. And I don't have to think about it. I know how to do it. I feel comfortable doing it. Whereas everything else was like, how, what, who, where. That's gone. It's kind of like, just be you. And it's amazing when those thoughts come in, isn't it? It's like, oh yeah, this is me, and I don't want to do that, so I'm going to get rid of that now. I did want to do it, but I don't want to do it anymore, so I'm not going to, because it was filling time as opposed to really being me. So yeah, but I think it just fits. It just came into my head with Kate talking and with Philip talking, that's actually what this chapter's about as well.
Yeah, I think if anybody came here for anything listening, you might, it's like everyone built the support structure for you to say what you're talking about right now, because you're really hitting it on the head. You're really hitting it on the head. I would yes. Yes, 100%. I'm gonna keep going because I feel like there's more to be said here. Jamie, go for it. What do we got from you, man?
I think we're all looking through our signal through the noise, right? I don't know if you guys have ever heard that saying. It's the signal through the noise. And so underneath all of that chatter, and in Kate's, in Jane's case, her clarity showed leadership with love. That's her signal underneath all that noise. So the concept that there is something there, if you can just listen to it, is applicable in so many other areas. So I love hearing that. I love hearing that we're all kind of going through it. That's great. Kate, I have a couple of questions for you, because you seem to have a very distinct idea of when you were able to cut through to the signal and remove some of that. 14 months ago. What was the catalyst for that? And question number 2 is, you got 50 years of habits going the other way. How do you keep it going?
Thank you.
Powerful.
I had the opportunity. So when I was training to be a coach, Sachin Sharma was one of the tutors on the course, and then subsequently he did a monthly session, and then he invited me to his Lamron 3-day intensive, which consisted of a monthly let's all meet online, 35 of us, let's meet online. Sounds like, comfort zone number 1 out of the window. So I had to meet 35 people online because he invited me, and I was like, oh, okay. And then we had to go to London. See my language, part of it was to go to London for 3 days. So 6 months of getting to know people online, culminating 3 days in London. And that felt good. So I've met people online, and so to meet them in real life was great. And the first day that we then went out for lunch, and it was like milling around, and people were sitting in clusters, and I kid you not, there was a table of 8, there were 4 people, they had a cluster, there were 3 people over here, they had a cluster, and then I was like, oh God, I can't do the thing. I can't do the chat. So I kid you not, I cried. One of the other people looked over, it's like, what is going on for you? Rajni, you might know Rajni, Rajni Gear. And so that was a huge turning point, because my story was, I was just coming from that place. I can't do the thing. I can't do the lunch. I can't chat. So that was the beginning of the first day. And then 3 days later, 3 days with these amazing people, I started to let it go. And then the next invite was to go to the Lamont Intensive at Fair Oak Farm in Sussex, which I know is where the Creative Recharge is. So I went there in June last year, 6 days with 12 people. And I kept on putting myself in places where I wasn't comfortable and started to like it. So, and it was there when we, at the end of the 6 days, we had to we're invited to write in the back of each other's notebooks, you know, so we all reflected on each other. And one of the guys there wrote, Kate eats comfort zones for breakfast, and I've just held on to that. But it's because I like it so much. Now that I've created this freedom for myself, it's like Jane was saying, when you cut through the noise and you find your thing or the switch or whatever it is, it's easy. It's so much easier because I don't have a story now. This is just it. Whereas before I had a story that was, I'm mute. So there's lots of noise going on. But now there is, you know, trust my instinct, do the thing. No need to roll dice. There's no shall I, shan't I. So just do the thing, just play, whatever the thing is, just speak, just reach out. So yeah, and now that's who I am now. And you know, I still feel quite astounded. But yeah, so I know that it was March last year when I went to the 3-day thing that was a big turning point. And then in June last year, which isn't even a year away, and then that's helped me, you know, I met Nick as well last March, so that was huge for me. So I didn't know who Nick was, Nick Bettini. And I laugh because when I say that, because everyone in that room, they all called him Nick Bettini. They never just said Nick. It's always Nick Bettini. And he was just an observer. He was an observer. And then it was 9 months later that I thought, you know, he's still playing on my mind. I'll stalk him on YouTube and find out all of the stuff that he does. And then I joined Project Domino, doing the apprenticeship. And this has only been 18 months. Everything has changed so much. And wherever we are now, it's always good to reflect how far we've come. But it's always good to know as well that in 6 months' time or 6 weeks' time, 18 months' time, things will be different again. Back to creating the circumstances. You know, things will be different, and there's always something to reflect on, and there's always something to know. Even, you know, when in the first thing for this chapter, you know, sometimes she is disappointed and low in energy, and other days she is full of energy and stepping outside of her comfort zones. So we all ebb and flow, but just keep looking back over your shoulder at how far you've come, and know that in 6 months' time you'll look back again. We'll remember tonight, and we'll all be somewhere different again. And how incredible would that be? Because we're creating our circumstances. But yeah, March last year will forever be a huge pivotal moment.
Thanks for sharing.
That's phenomenal. I want to just chime in here too and connect to what Jane was saying about this book Clarity by Jamie Smart, you know. Because one of the things that Jamie Smart talks about is that we kind of mix up the physical world with the thought world. So, you know, we say things like you were saying, Jamie, like how do you stop 50 years worth of habits? Like how do you turn that around? How do you go in the opposite direction of that? And the way that Jamie Smart kind of talks about it, and I think that Kate like is a proven example of it, is that thoughts and habits aren't physical. Now, some people might say that, you know, there's neural networks or neural pathways and they've kind of been built in certain ways, and that's why we are, so that there's some physical aspect of it. But the way that Jamie kind of talks about it is that once you kind of realize that this set of situations or acts or beliefs don't work for you, they're just gone. They no longer exist. And what they're replaced by, or what's uncovered by letting them go, is your innate your what he calls your like it's like your mental immune system. So we have this natural immune system that's not only to fight off diseases in the physical world, but also this natural immune system to fight off diseases of the mental world. And then if we allow it to do its work, it will right us. And we can do that by just dropping this story, like Kate was saying, that we implant these ideas into our nervous system and we hold on to them. We make them real by choosing to make them real and validating them every day. But if we let go of them, they do disappear. And then you have circumstances like Kate's talking about where you just go in the opposite direction with 10 times as much energy, because that was what you naturally would do without that ingrained belief system, that outer noise, kind of that being, rather than being compelled, you're impelled to so yeah, I just wanted to kind of connect those different frames of thought together. Michaela, and then Layla.
What's up?
Yeah.
Guys, you brought the level of the conversation is too high. I don't know what to say now. I gotta bring it down for a second. So, Neil, you said something that was extraordinary. I have no idea what it means. You said this part was like tapping into the crocs. I have no idea what that means. So I think we're gonna make it a catchphrase. Like from now on, every time there's a part that really stays with you, that's tapping into the crocs. Okay, you can explain me later. I don't know. No, but really, I mean, you want to really explain it? Okay, I know. I was just.
Okay, I want to explain it. I'll leave it
Never
to
mind.
you
Never mind.
to
It will stay a mystery. I don't know. I'll Google it. But oh man, this was so evocative. Your story, Kate. Like really.
Yeah.
Super fucking powerful. By the way, I want to Jane. Like I'm right. Like because I thought it's unbelievable to think this. Like you thought of yourself like mute, like seeing you in Domino, and even recently, I thought you were like because I think I saw you first at Lamron from Sachin because I edited those videos, right? So
oh my God, was that you?
Yeah, of course. So I knew your face already. And when I got into Domino, I was like, oh, okay, sure. She's an experienced coach. So yeah, of course she talks like that. Now you tell, but you know, when you started telling your story in Domino, I was like, what the fuck? and by the way, also seeing some other view from Domino, I really see the change, like the evolution. It's really strong, right, Neil? Like, I really see it. Yeah. So, okay. Anyway, I don't want to stay too long on that because it's like, I was even thinking, this is really the dumb version. You all said super like deep books. Now I'm going to say something really stupid again to bring the level down, trying to help you, Neil. But you reminded me of that super stupid movie with Jim Carrey. I think it was Yes Man, you know? When he started to say yes to everything and he changes his life, is the dumb version. Okay. But it really sounds like the way you said it, like I have no comfort zones anymore. Wow. Imagine living like that. Wow. Is it even possible? I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to try to, because even the last part you were saying, Neil, it was so powerful. I'm going to try to make like a summary of that. See, because I also have another idea in that of the mind, the physical world and the thought or mind world. That's interesting. So the things you said until now, starting from this chapter of the book. So what I hear a lot is the I think it's a coaching framework or whatever it is. I don't know, because I'm not a coach actually. So, but when you say drop in the stories, so okay, we all have our story. I'm mute. I'm not a good this. I'm not a good that. Whatever my mom says to me, and I really believe it's true because she told me for 25 years, whatever. But also a lot comes from you. So drop those and you find freedom. Okay, that's an idea. But then also from what Leila was saying in the beginning, Leila, sorry, I hope I said it well. Nobody says my name well, so don't worry, it's fine. It's I don't think what you were saying is, because it sounded really like a reaction, right? Like you have this thought and then something else comes really quick. So I don't see that as dropping stories. It's more like, because the way I heard explain it recently, I don't remember where, but it's like the brain is like an alarm system from, evolutionary psychology. So it's really designed, right? The circuits in there to really make you survive. So imagine you have a scary thought, like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that trip. I'm going to go to do that thing for the musician or participate in that conference, in that intensive, whatever that is, going on television or a podcast. And then the brain, the alarm system of the brain is, hey, it's scary. It can be dangerous. You can die, which is not even true, because but in our minds, it's like we still live in the cave age. So that's interesting because a lot of people think that they can solve these things with thinking, but is the thinking really? That is the whole brain, that is the whole alarm system, and you can't solve it with that. So then you go into meditation or stuff like that to cancel the thinking, which is also the self. Because like I was mentioning Jiddu Krishnamurti earlier, right? Because I got into him through Bruce Lee, because it was one of his mentors, even if they didn't know each other. And that's something he always says. He says it like the observer is the observed. So whatever you're thinking or whatever you're trying to solve, that's a thought, and you're trying to solve it through thinking. I mean, that's the way I see it, at least. You're never gonna win, like the way the idea you have of yourself, or the self, is the thinking, the thoughts are the thinking. So it's all pretty much a mess, all that part, right? And the way I saw it, the way you describe it, Kate, or then getting out of the comfort zone or stopping the noise, cutting the line, what the signal, it's really, in some ways, and there are many, many different ways probably. Meditation is one, coaching is another one, some methods. You really get out of the thinking. So the reaction noises or the stories that you've had even for decades, in some ways you get out of that, and you're basically in the present, in the moment, in the flow. And then I think you said it, Kate, you start to build momentum because you do it through actions, right? So you have that idea of doing that thing, you do it, boom, now you do something, like you claim it, you can do whatever you do. And then on top of that, you start to build momentum because you get out of the thinking. People start to recognize it, and they see you, they flock around you, they even text you, whatever. You start to build movements, or maybe you build a business, but then you do another thing. You're more into action, more and more, and then can build something extraordinary. And then you find yourself like a year later, you're a completely different person. And it also inspires other people. That's how I see it. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's enough. Okay, I raised the level again. I tried, at least. I don't know.
You're absolutely right, Michaela. There's so much. Oh man, I'm gonna have to go back and listen to this whole thing again. And I think that is that to really speak to what you're saying. I would think what a lot of people are saying, and I think it is a perpetual fear, especially in our society. I'm not sure if it's a fear in other cultures, but is that if we don't think our way out of the problem by piecing things together with a strategy, then we're going to fail. That whereas if we spend a little bit less time thinking, then whole ideas will come that have the strategy built into them. We don't have to struggle to figure out the strategy. It's one of those aha kind of moments. You know, there's another thing that I noticed, like tying this back to talking about millionaires, was that a lot of them talked about having their best ideas while on vacation, like going for a run, doing a lot of things that were so far removed from their like work and working 16 hours a day or strategizing or whatever it was, when they had a moment to calm down and slow down and let the noise go, then all of a sudden, boom, an idea would hit them. And then the biggest difference though was that those ideas that they had, they could quickly apply. You know, they could pick up the phone and they'd have a board of CEOs, or they would have employees, or they'd have some type of system set up where those ideas could be applied very effectively. So it's not that we, from reading that kind of situation stuff, from kind of experiencing it in my own life, it's not that we don't want to think and strategize. It's just that the real most powerful element of the plan, which is the idea, which is the energy of whatever we're doing, that's the real thing that's moving the quickest and making everything else move. It's like the idea is like a battery that can be captured within the strategies, if that makes sense to you. So if you're just like, oh, I'm just going to use strategies and analysis and try and think about all of this, but you have no idea because you haven't taken the time to just relax and let things disperse, and then your original thinking emerge, then you might never find the thing that's the most powerfully effective in your life. But that takes letting go of the fear of the linear process, like taking time off, going for a walk, having a nice conversation and a cup of tea, or like swimming in the ocean, like you were saying, Kate. All these kind of things that don't seem like effective uses of your time, where they actually are the kind of the catch all for the most effective use of your time.
I actually call it percolating.
Percolating, yeah, there you go. Yeah, you need to percolate for a while before. Yes, exactly. Okay, I think for something that's right there is a little, we might be using that word in the future. Layla, you're pretty much gonna have some of our closing statements here. So
I'll go quickly then. How do
oh
I
no, you take all the time you need.
So on the part about eating, whoever told you, Kate, that you eat comfort zones for lunch? Okay. Did I get that right? You eat them for breakfast or something like that? Yeah.
Yeah. That was the feedback. Kate's eating her comfort zones for breakfast. They are no more.
So I read this other book that actually Neil suggested called Raja Yoga by Swami Vivekananda. And in this book, he has a thing where he says, your weaknesses are your path to your self-liberation. And this part about it's just like a chrysalis. It's like the part about not thinking, the doing, the part about miracles existing in, the part in the book, the chapter, just that when we, okay, so in the 2020 times, as an artist, in 8 days, I lost 40 grand, because all of my year and a half of my life just like gone. And I know that everybody felt all kinds of things. And it was, to me, there was like this actual physical darkness. And I spent 3 months crying at my piano. Like I would just sit down to play and I couldn't even play. I would just start crying. And then the farmer who lives next door to me drove by my backyard drinking his beer, and I'm sitting out there with my kids, like, still kind of like, what the hell's going on? He says, Layla, do you have a job right now? I was like, no, dude, I do not. He was like, do you want to come farm for the season? And I was like, yes. And I went and did a 5-acre farm with 3 women for that summer. Then I worked in their pear packing factory. They distribute pears from here all the way across to Nova Scotia through the Loblaws Corporation. And then I worked in their farm again. And then I worked again in the factory. And then this light turned on about this old doula stuff that I'd been doing. And I went and got trained by the infamous rebellious traditional birth worker, Gloria LeMay, who's currently 72 and being busted by the police for supporting women through birth. Got trained by her and just started saying yes to people needing support. And the whole time, and then, and now here I am. I went to this conference this weekend that was all about music. And Neil graciously offered me a 2-minute moment before I left for it, saying to me, but how are you going to be when you show up, Layla? How are you going to present yourself? And that moment of darkness for me, for a lot of people, I think is providing a really fantastic key, which is that we can follow the sparkly bits, like the choice to go farm or the choice to go get trained or could I have seen, and at this point, the choice to say to that woman, absolutely, I will get on a plane and I will come to New Orleans. Like, would I have seen myself where I am when I was 20? Would I have thought that this is where I would be? And were all of those bright lights these kind of like nerve-wracking things, but in that dark space, following the little light is what has brought me here even. And I just think there's a lot of power in those weak places as being exactly where I need to go in order to keep going, in order to like do all the things that I'm supposed to do in life. I think that quote from that book applies for all of us as humanity, that like that thoughtless space, that place that just sees the weakness or like as it all, just go eat it for lunch, eat it for breakfast, like right into the places and bear witness to the miracle, like the miracles of it all. And just grateful for all of your guys's pretty freaking beautiful thoughts and ideas. And the last thing I wanted to share was, and can I share one more thing, or am I?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. You got the closing thoughts, so you go for it, girl.
Okay. So with the music world, my dad had Parkinson's, got diagnosed when I was 12 years old. And up until I was 12, I had this really intimate relationship with jazz. And I lived in the city of Toronto, and I would go to the Beaches festivals, and my dad would come in at night and put me to bed, and we'd listen to jazz on the radio together. And he would drop all these names, like all the names. And then when he got sick, I shut that entire world out of my life. And I didn't actually know that I did that until this week, until this conference, until this conversation with this woman who's this jazz trumpet player who invites me to New Orleans. Just to share back, Jamie, when you were saying like, what are the times when the things that cause those like those big breaks? It's like stepping into the weaknesses constantly, or eating those comfort zones. I fucking love that. For breakfast. Every time you do that, it's gonna pop. And what popped for me, I realized this deep truth that I had put aside an entire thing. And now for the past 2 days, I've been doing nothing but trying to think about Nina Simone's piano playing. And like, how can I can I copy this woman? Can I be that? And anyways, very extremely, probably way too long story short, it is liberating. Yeah, Kate, it doesn't feel like there's an effort. It doesn't feel like all the stuff that I thought I was trying to do. And I was telling Neil the other day, like slamming on a door and knocking on a door, banging on it, being like, let me in, let me in, let me in. And then you just like look around and you realize there's no wall. It's just a freaking wall. You're like, what the hell? Why was I banging endlessly on it? I could just go over here and like walk around. So I love this. Thank you so much, Neil, for hosting.
Yeah.
I wish we could all like squish each other, because I would squish everything. You guys are so brilliant.
Yeah, I know everyone who's not in this right now, you are missing out.
Yeah.
You are missing out. And I'm really happy to hear you say that too, Leia, because that is, especially knowing you, just as kind of like my own closing statement here. The amount of stuff that you went through and the amount of struggles, and for you to just open up and allow this deep and kind of ancient in your life this time around desire and dream to reemerge. It took a lot for that to happen, and I think that's kind of a crux of what we're talking about here, is that we have all these ideas, we have all these things that sit on top of what we really want to be doing. And sometimes there's even pain that comes along with those things, that if we cleared out the space and let the real things that we deeply cherish and want to happen come through and have a voice, there might be some uncomfortable things we have to deal with along the way to allow them to come out. But those ideas and those dreams are so powerful that when they finally come out, they have so much power to go in the direction that you want them to go in, and it's effortlessly moves in that direction because it always wanted to be there. And you don't have to fight to keep the story alive and do all the actions to keep the story alive, because you can just let that innate passion, that innate way of being kind of shine through. So if there was anything that I would give to everyone in this session, is that this whole thing was about, to hell with circumstances, creating your opportunities, and those opportunities coming when you just let the noise subside and hear the most powerful voice in yourself coming through, and to trust that that voice will have the strength to carry you towards your goals, strategies, and everything else packaged inside it. So I hope that yeah. Right on, guys. Such a fearless pack of thought leaders, cross-industry powerhouses. Thank you for leading the charge here. And I hope anyone who watches this is feeling insanely like they missed out, because I'm very happy to be here. Wow. And thanks for spending
This was a great session, man. I'm gonna be here every time because this was tapping into the Crocs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm making that into a meme. I am.
That's the brand.
How do you
man.
say your name? Why did you say everybody says it wrong? How do you say your name?
Michele.
Michaela.
Because everybody says Michela.
Michaela.
That's family name.
Michaela. La.
But that's whatever.
Michele.
Or
It
Michelle.
doesn't matter. Exactly, Michelle. Everybody says Michelle in London, so no
You
problem.
should spell it with a K. Spell it with a K instead of CH. Then it would be like Michele.
Okay. See, I gotta hire you.
And also, so hire me to stop you from saying Crocs. It's not like the shoes. It's like the crucifix.
No, it's the shoes, man. That's the new catchphrase of this group. I'm gonna put it on
Get
your
to the
Facebook group,
Crocs.
Neil.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a meme of this. Get to the Crocs.
Yeah.
Get to
Tap
the
it into
Crocs.
I'm gonna keep it for as long as this group goes, man. Don't worry. This was beautiful,
Next
man.
week.
Super powerful. Three calls in, and this was fucking gold, man.
Hell yeah. We're just
Good
getting
stuff.
deeper and deeper here.
I
You
gotta
just
fly.
gotta
Take care,
understand.
everyone.
You just gotta learn
Bye,
how to
Jamie.
send
Bye,
the link.
Jamie.
Nice. Okay. Thank you very much, guys. I will see you.
Thank you.
next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Yes.